guys are gonna have to forgive me if I still sound sick. I'm getting over a cold and I can't put off recording this any longer. Do you ever randomly recall a book or a show or something and think, I wonder if that's as weird as I remember it being? This sounds like the start of a lost media post, but recently, no idea why, I was struck with the memory of watching Sherlock's The Abominable Bride in theaters with my mom. I remember liking it at the time. I would have been 14. But once I went back through the plot points I could conjure in my mind, I thought, that sounds kind of bad actually, like weirdly bad. So I asked my mom if she remembered it, or remembered it being weird, and she went, oh god. So that was definitely an answer. It seems like it was received generally favorably at the time, but a lot of the actual discussion I found online anymore just revolved around asking for clarification on just about every plot detail, so that wasn't a good sign either. On top of that, no one in real life that I talked to even remembered that this existed. Like, I asked around my friend group, and especially to someone who I knew was way more into the show than I was at the time, and they had no idea what I was talking about. In retrospect, it does almost feel like a lost media case, like this was a nightmare that only I had, and I guess my mom too. I'll be real, I had a general idea of what I was going to say about this movie based on my memories. There were bits I could remember that made a nice little tiny microcosm of why I dislike BBC Sherlock as a whole. I could go through them, point to each one, and go, therefore I don't like the show. And it wasn't as straightforward as that. No, instead, this movie rocketed me from pretty damn good highs to some of the worst Holmes-related scenes I have ever seen adapted, and then, like, back up again. And then back again. This movie is a roller coaster to the point where I was really struggling to figure out how to script this. Every problem is connected to every other, to the point where I don't know where to even start. I think what we'll do is I'll give you a quick plot breakdown and then go into the issues I have with it in order of severity. But yeah, before we get into it, we're definitely gonna have to summarize it, so, well, here goes nothing. Okay, so the plot opens in 1895 at Christmas time, and Sherlock is presented with a new case about a woman named Amelia Recoletti who shot herself in the mouth, then returned to kill her husband before actually dying for good. It's drumming up fear of ghosts among the general populace, which is understandably pissing Holmes off because we know that ghosts aren't real. Mary and John have a domestic dispute in Sherlock's living room, which I feel the need to mention not because it's actually important to the plot, but because John doesn't live there anymore. They're fully having a borderline divorce in someone else's living room, and Sherlock is trying to block them out with a violin like he's the kid in the fighting furry parents meme. Anyway, Mycroft summons Sherlock to tell him about this ominous force that's trying to change the social fabric of the UK and warns him not to stop them because they're actually right. He does have more details about the situation, but he doesn't tell Sherlock this because he's a piece of shit, and also so the rest of the plot can happen. Also, Mycroft is using food to kill himself, and Sherlock is encouraging it. Don't worry about it, I guess. A bit of time goes by with no ghosts until Holmes is summoned to the case of the 5 orange pips, in which one Sir Carmichael has received the seeds as an omen of death, just like in the story, so Sherlock and John go to wait at his house and ambush his potential assailant and save his life. They fail really badly, and Sir Carmichael is stabbed to death, and John swears up and down he saw the ghost do it. It's weird enough, but then Sherlock finds a note attached to the handle of the stabbing knife that wasn't there before, implying that Moriarty has also been revived from his suicide as well. It throws Sherlock through such a loop that he shuts himself away to meditate on it, and then wakes up in the modern day, and guess what? It was all a hallucination that modern Sherlock was having after ODing on a plethora of non-specified substances. Everyone else is pretty concerned that he, OD'd, but Sherlock is insistent that he's trying to retroactively solve the case of Recoletti, which apparently did happen in the 1800s and went cold, and is using it to try and figure out how modern-day Moriarty also returned from the dead in the same way that Amelia seemed to. He's insistent on visiting Amelia's grave and digging it up. John appropriately tells him to fuck off and that he's not going along with the self-destructive bullshit anymore, good for him, and Sherlock goes ahead with desecrating the grave. Following so far? Good, because we're moving on. Sherlock awakes once again in the 1800s, and he and Mycroft talk about how this is actually a dream and nothing makes sense. So why are we still acting like the clues will make sense and that the case can be solved in a coherent way? No idea. But Sherlock does figure it out, finally solving the mystery of the ghost. It turns out that Amelia used some basic magician tricks to fake her suicide, kill her husband, and then actually commit suicide. And every ghost bride case afterwards has been committed by a cult of women dedicated to advancing women's rights, and they use Amelia as a martyr, and many of them pose as the bride to kill men in their lives who have wronged them. This is what Mycroft was alluding to earlier. By the way, he is apparently in on it along with Mary Watson. Sherlock gives a big long speech about feminism basically directly to the camera, and Moriarty shows up being like, yeah, well, this is all in your head, so who cares? And they're immediately transported to Reichenbach Falls to reenact the final problem, despite the fact that the final problem has already happened in BBC Sherlock. John shows up to save him in a nice twist on the original story, revealing that he knows that he's in a hallucination, and Sherlock jumps from the fall, symbolically ending the dream. Still following, because we're not done yet. Sherlock wakes up in the modern day once again, and it turns out the modern day sequence from earlier was also part of the dream, and this is the only part that has been real thus far, but he did in fact still overdose on the plane, and everyone is now concerned just like earlier. Especially because Moriarty didn't actually come back at all. That was also part of the hallucination. Was Amelia Recoletti an actual cold case that Sherlock was trying to solve? They never specify. None of it actually happened and none of it mattered, and Mycroft is the only one who's showing the appropriate amount of concern for the fact that Sherlock just OD'd. Sherlock brushes him off, and Mycroft asks John to please take care of him because he's clearly not doing well, and John promises. Despite that, Sherlock insists that he's feeling much better now, and Mary and John go along with it, despite Sherlock being nearly delirious moments ago, despite John being a doctor, and despite the fact that he just promised his brother that he was going to take care of his friend. Everyone walks off and nothing was accomplished at the end. Did you get all that? No? That's okay, I barely did either. Let's try to make sense of it. There actually are several bits of this movie that I really like. Some of the jokes are genuinely funny, and just like the series proper, it's also clear that the showrunners have a genuinely impressive knowledge of not only the original stories, but tons and tons of other adaptations, more adaptations than I was even aware of. My problem with the series always came more to do with the interpretations of its characters more than the details of the cases. There's so many little references I love. The 5 Orange Pips is a real story. Since this movie takes place at Christmas, it's referenced that the blue carbuncle just happened. There's references to Paget's illustrations not matching Holmes and Watson's actual appearances, which is something that I believe Conan Doyle actually complained about. Tim McInnery plays Eustace Carmichael, and though I didn't notice this right off the bat, he was also in Granada's Red-Headed League. The time between these two series pretty much precludes them having any crossover actors, so it's really cool that they were able to do it at least once. Speaking of Granada, there's this one scene where I swear Cumberbatch is doing Brett's inflection.
Mrs. Hudson, there is a woman in my sitting room.
And I must get ready for my visitor. It came by the Morning Post.
Just this line, though. I don't know why. There are also times when I kind of think Gaddis is trying to imitate Charles Grey too, but I'm not sure about that one, and I kind of hope not, because for reasons we'll discuss, it will be a lot more insulting than if Cumberbatch was doing it.
To anyone who wishes to study mankind, this is the spot.
For anyone who wishes to study mankind, this is the spot.
Speaking of Mycroft, though, I love using, presumably, BSL in the Diogenes Club to communicate silently. Fuck, that's good. I wish that got adopted into Fanon more. That's a great idea. At first, I was going to complain that Amelia Recoletti seemed to be a reference to Sophia Gratitis, a character from Greek Interpreter, despite it being implied that Greek Interpreter is also happening during this plot simultaneously.
Also, Mr. Mellis to see you, Mr. Holmes.
But apparently Recoletti's case was actually a separate one that was mentioned in passing in another original story, so that one was my bad. +1 to Sherlock and minus to ACD. I like Watson coming in and saving him at the falls at the end. Like I mentioned, it's a really nice twist on the original story. And the little scene where they're just talking together at the end, that's nice too. Why couldn't all of it be like that? And not whatever we actually got? So I guess let's get started on everything I think is wrong with it. Like I said, there are several funny exchanges. It's not entirely bad.
He said there's only one suspect, and then he just walks away, and now he won't explain.
Which is strange, because he likes that bit.
So it's so simple I could solve it.
I'm sure he was exaggerating.
But oh my god, it is so quippy.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank God that's over. Pass me your revolver. I have a sudden need to use it. You were about to suggest there may be some supernatural agency involved in this matter, and I was about to laugh in your face.
I was never a fan of this type of dialogue, and by that I mean MCU type dialogue, THQ type dialogue, you know what I mean. The irreverent, sarcastic tone that lets everyone know you're not taking your premise too seriously. Because when you think about it, genres are so stupid, right? Isn't this a trope? Aren't we so meta?
Maybe it was a secret twin.
It is never twins, Watson.
And I feel like generally popular opinion has really shifted against it, and people in 2025 don't like it anymore either.
Hang on, did you just shift reality?
And at this point, to me, it feels very dated. Not that there isn't media that's still doing this, but it feels very 2010s anymore. And in normal 2010s Sherlock, it's annoying but understandable. In 1800s Sherlock, it's annoying and anachronistic. It clashes so bad with the otherwise really well done tone. Still, I'll fully admit this is mostly a personal preference of mine more than a flaw. If you like this kind of thing, you'll really like the dialogue here. I can't, man. It makes me cringe. So like, why does everyone in BBC Sherlock resent each other? This is one of the problems I was talking about that I have with the series as a whole, and I feel like now, having an actual direct adaptation of A Study in Scarlet scene with Moffat and Gaddis's dialogue edits, it really drives home the point of how obnoxious and mean their Sherlock is in comparison. The original meeting scene of A Study in Scarlet is delightful. Holmes is doing chemical experiments with blood, and he gets so excited by the results that he pulls Watson, a total stranger, over by his coat sleeves to come and see it.
At the sound of our steps, he glanced round and sprang to his feet with a cry of pleasure. "I found it! I found it!" he shouted to my companion, running towards us with a test tube in his hand. Had he discovered a gold mine, greater delight could not have shone upon his features. "Dr. Watson, Mr. Sherlock Holmes," said Stamford, introducing us. "How are you?" he said cordially, gripping my hand with a strength for which I should have hardly given him credit. "You have been in Afghanistan, I perceive. How on earth did you know that?" I asked in astonishment. Never mind, said he, chuckling to himself.
He bows to an imaginary audience. Now, here's BBC's version.
I do hope we're not interrupting.
You've been in Afghanistan, I perceive.
Dr. Watson, Mr. Sherlock.
Excellent reflexes. You'll do.
I'm sorry?
I buy on a suite of rooms near Regent's Park. Between us, we could afford them.
Rooms? Who said anything about rooms?
I did. I mentioned to Stanford this morning I was in need of a fellow lodger. Now he appears after lunch in the company of a man of military aspect with a tan and a recent injury, both suggestive of the campaign in Afghanistan and an enforced departure from it. The conclusion seemed inescapable. We'll finalize the details tomorrow evening. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a hanging in Wandsworth, and I'd hate them to start without me.
Obviously, it had to be cut down a lot for time, that I understand. But the whole vibe is so different, and it goes along with what I was saying about the dialogue. It's smug, it's snide, it really hammers home how joyless and lacking in self-awareness this version of Holmes is. Here's another scene to illustrate what I mean.
You've been swatting up
Why would I do that?
to sound clever.
I'm clever.
Oh, I see.
You see what?
I deduce we're on our way to see someone cleverer than you.
Shut up.
I don't understand why they're so combative with each other. No other version of Sherlock I've seen has this much of a problem admitting that Mycroft is smarter than him. In the original story, it's one of the first things he mentions about him. He's not bitter or jealous because he prides himself on being objective, and Mycroft is objectively smarter than him. And I get that they don't have to get along perfectly all the time. That's boring, it's unrealistic, I get it. Book Holmes can be a prick too, absolutely, and especially when hitting close to his insecurities. But his insecurities are much more along the lines of whether he's making moral choices in his cases or not, whether he's using these skills that he has wisely or not. Not about whether he's smart, he knows he's smart.
I'm clever.
I just don't get the appeal of following a character that's this up their own ass and this resentful of the people who clearly care about him. It's a big problem I have with House as well. I just find it unpleasant, and fundamentally, it's missing a big element of who Doyle's Holmes is. The amount of times Book Watson calls Holmes childlike or joyful or as sensitive to flattery as a girl might be to her beauty is significant. I don't know how you could read the stories and miss it, or alternatively, notice it and decide it isn't important. It just makes me kind of sad. Generally, in BBC's adaptation, I feel like this problem is confined mostly to Sherlock himself. But in this special, it kind of seeps into everyone. I kind of hate everyone here most of the time. Especially Watson. Not modern Watson. I like modern Watson a lot, but for some reason BBC's 1895 Watson specifically is a bigot?
Amazing. What one has to do to get ahead in a man's world.
Why?
Sorry, sir. I'm rather behind my time this morning.
Are you incapable of boiling an egg? If it wasn't my wife's business to deal with the staff, I would talk to you myself. Where is my wife?
What?
I don't mind you going, my darling. I mind you leaving me behind.
But what could you do?
Well,
What are you talking about?
Socialists? Anarchists?
No.
The French? The suffragists?
Is there any large body of people you're not concerned about?
Dr. Watson is endlessly vigilant.
Where did this come from?
The Scots.
Scots.
The Scots? What do you mean the Scots? You are the Scots, John Hamish Watson! But I guess Watson's random out-of-character bigotry can bring us to a bigger problem. So, y'all understand I'm a feminist, right? I'm a big old lefty SJW, and I don't try to hide it, or how it sometimes comes into my media analysis. That's all to preface that I don't say shit like this often, but BBC Sherlock is obsessed with proving how woke and feminist it is. More than that, it's not very good at it. There has already been a lot of critique about their portrayal of Irene Adler specifically, about how they tried to make her character more empowered by making her a sex worker, made her much more gender-conforming and hypersexual than she was in the book, and more than anything, how they made this married woman who wanted nothing to do with Holmes, who cheekily told him to fuck off and never contact her again, into a yandere that's mentally and sexually obsessed with him. It's all bad. It's not great, but this whole 2010s pop feminist angle is amplified times 100 in this special, because I guess the whole point was to show how, like, sexist 1800s England was. Hot take, I know. And to do this, they don't actually focus on any specific social issue of the time. Suffrage is mentioned in passing, I think twice. But their main way of showing this problem is instead by making everyone a cartoonish, raging misogynist. Seriously, I think Holmes hallucinated into the Andrew Tate dimension. This dialogue is written like how you would explain sexism to a child.
And what does your morning threaten, my dear? A vigorous round of embroidering?
An exhausting appointment at the milliner's?
Except Mycroft, I guess. Which is funny. Don't worry, guys. One of the primary writers of this movie is actually woke, and so is his character. You can trust him. And Moffat. And the director. There's not a lot of women involved in writing and directing this story about women, is there? I will admit, though, I do kind of like feminist Mycroft in this, specifically because it's the second time an adaptation has made Mycroft specifically more feminist-minded than Sherlock and the general population. Granada did it too.
One wonders with how much remorse she abandoned her brother for Harold Latimer.
You still retain your low opinion of women.
Yeah, this line was not in the books. None of this is in the books. It just keeps happening. And you know what? I like it. But Jesus, everyone else. When I talk about it being immature, I actually want to give a counterexample. There's an entirely unrelated murder mystery show called Murdoch Mysteries. It's a show I'm not super into, but my parents watch a lot of it, so I've seen some of it. It takes place in early 1900s Canada, so maybe a decade or so after this movie is set, but there was a two-part episode that focused on one of the main characters, a female doctor, forming a group to teach her vulnerable female patients about contraception, which was still very illegal. It goes into the intricacies of what's legal versus what's moral, how hard it's worth fighting for a deeply important principle, when there can be negative real-world fallout from either outcome, and it's still very witty and very funny. It is a relevant plot point that many of the female characters are facing dismissal or even violence from the men in their lives, but the story itself is built around a tangible social issue, with a woman as the main character in this specific episode. Misogyny isn't just men don't realize how important women are, and censoring that as if that's the primary issue that's being discussed is very surface level, and given how BBC Sherlock has handled female characters in general, surface level is a nice way of putting it. Again, suffrage is mentioned, again I think twice, in the whole special. Good start. Make that the central issue. And if that's too much of a diversion from Recolletti's suicide and how it relates to modern Sherlock, maybe this isn't the place for feminist discussion. If you don't have the time and resources to treat a serious social issue with the depth and seriousness it deserves, maybe just leave it alone, man. There's barely any female characters to center in this story at all, so it's a weird thing to even try and tackle in the first place. I don't think this is doing much of anything. It is really obnoxious though. Oh my god, is it heavy-handed. Sherlock has this whole speech basically directly to the audience going, "Everyone say I'm sorry, women." And all I'm left thinking is, hey champ, aren't you overdosing on a plane right now? This doesn't help you understand how Moriarty came back, really. I think these dudes are doing their best. I do. But it really does seem like they see misogyny as just being mean to women. And if you think this is all just identity politics, and that it's stupid that I, a man, am criticizing these men for how they're writing women's issues, don't worry. According to the UK, I am still 100% legally a woman. I don't have a lot for this section because I feel like it's kind of self-explanatory. And I almost feel like this should go without saying, but don't put "it was all a dream" in the middle of a mystery we're still trying to figure out. At that point, how do we trust anything we've seen up to now? The evidence could just be anything pointing anywhere. The fact that we go back into a hallucination when we think we're out of it is wild to me, because at that point, who fucking cares? They just showed us how it doesn't matter. And if you say, well, he needs to figure out how Amelia faked her death so that he can figure out how Moriarty did it, we find out at the end that Moriarty isn't back at all. This was all just a waste of time. But it's not the thing I hate most about this movie. Yes, it does make it almost impossible to rewatch without massive question marks next to everything, but I'll be honest, some of my favorite parts of this movie were the ones dealing with Sherlock's addiction. There's a lot in those scenes that I like. I like the list. It's a great plot point. It just sucks that most of it is completely fake and unreliable until the very, very end. But speaking of dream elements, we have to talk about Mycroft now. Now, I don't like BBC Mycroft at the best of times, but not for the same reasons I dislike their Sherlock. Sherlock is devoid of compassion and doesn't value human life, but Mycroft isn't an irredeemable person. He's generally a fine guy. My problem is he's not Mycroft. He is a writer's self-insert projected onto a pre-existing person or character, a la Hamilton. I can't speak to why Conan Doyle added Mycroft as a character, but he very wisely understood that introducing someone who is pretty much unequivocally the smartest man in the country had the potential to become extremely pretentious and overpowered. So basically, he nerfed him really hard. So not only is Mycroft massively frighteningly intelligent, he is private and antisocial to the point of being, in my opinion, agoraphobic. He's pretty much unable to function without strict routine, and occasionally tasks Sherlock with investigations into very sensitive government information, partially because it will require traveling and talking to people, which he is absolutely unwilling to do. So if you take that away, it turns out, yeah, it's really pretentious and overpowered. Also, yeah, Book Mycroft is also like 6'5" and 400 pounds.
Mycroft Holmes was a much larger and stouter man than Sherlock. His body was absolutely corpulent, but his face, though massive, had preserved something of the sharpness of expression which was so remarkable in that of his brother. His eyes, which were of a peculiarly light, watery grey, seemed to always retain that far-away, introspective look which I had only observed in Sherlock's when he was exerting his full powers.
And I think this description overall does a great job of showing how his physicality matches his personality. It gives the vision of someone whose only focus in life is his intellect. His body is secondary. He doesn't even see value in really moving much. Watson describes him as moving very awkwardly sometimes, and having like really little hand-eye coordination, but you can see the wheels turning in his head at all times. It all fits together really nicely and makes a very compelling character in my opinion. Without that duality, he's kind of just a guy. But remember I said I don't like him at the best of times. This isn't the best of times. Given that this episode is full of reference to the original source material, they decided to put Gaddis in a fat suit, which is fine on principle, I guess. But remember how I said Mycroft was fat because he was a sedentary shut-in, and this version of the character isn't, so they came up with a new excuse.
You look well, sir?
Really? I rather thought I looked enormous.
Well, now you mention it, this level of consumption is incredibly injurious to your health. If you continue like this, sir, I give you 5 years at the most.
5? We thought 3, did we not, Sherlock?
I'm still inclined to 4.
As ever.
Yes, you're right. I'm changing my bet to 3 years, 4 months, and 11 days.
A bet?
I understand your disapproval, Watson. But if he's feeling competitive, it's perfectly within his power to die early.
That's a risk you'll have to take.
You're gambling with your own life.
Why not? It's so much more exciting than gambling with others.
3 years flat if you eat that plum pudding.
Done.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. Well, first, the suit is just okay. It's mostly fine. They gave him a rougher skin texture in this dreamscape. I'm not really sure why, but it looks really good. Like, some angles, it looks really, really good, and then from others, you can tell that it's probably just a static foam piece that's not really supposed to move at all. Like, if he leans too much, it's just gonna pull apart. And this scene in particular is one of the ones that I feel is made for, like, children. Like, what is this, man?
Done.
This is not a serious drama. Are you kidding me? This is 90s Weird Al without the wordplay. This is that ugly fuck from The Christmas Light. The Christmas Light? Why the Christmas Light? Why was that the second example I had on deck ready to go? No one knows what that is. It's so deliberately crass. And for what? Like, I understand if I say the word fatphobia, y'all are gonna roll your eyes and click off immediately, so I won't. But can we at least agree that this is outdated and weird? This movie came out in 2015. But kind of the bigger problem is that, yeah, so this is a fetish. I don't mean maybe, I don't mean it's kind of similar, I mean that besides the specifics of the bet itself, this is a thing that a fringe minority of people actually do on purpose, and they do it pretty much exclusively with a sexual motive. It's called fetism, which overall is actually a broad umbrella of kinks related to food and weight gain, and from what I can tell, it can be fine. I actually have known people who are into it in various respects, but what this is specifically, and what I absolutely will wholeheartedly condemn, is called death fetism, and it is exactly what it sounds like. It is literally a fringe fetish inside of an already fringe fetish. And my point is, as much as I have to assume it was unintentional, or I sure hope it was, they did represent a really depraved paraphilia in their Christmas movie, Between Siblings, as well. And they brush it off so quick, too, like no one's gonna question it. This was way before the fake reality starts breaking down, too. I've seen no discussion of whether that's a clue that something's wrong. Sherlock's straight up just like, yeah, we're gonna kill him. Yep, he's suicidal, he's only got a few years left, and I'm gonna shorten that however I can. And the doctor involved is shockingly okay with this. I think if my close friend showed me something like this, I would be calling the police and going into witness protection, man. This is, like, this is sick. You have to remember, as much as Dream Mycroft seems to be sentient in his second scene, he isn't. Real Mycroft is not aware of this, and that's what makes it so much crueler. There's a really great moment near the end of this movie. I'm being completely serious.
Reality's back.
I almost hope he is. If it'll save you from this.
No need for that now. I've got the real thing. I have work to do.
Sherlock. Promise me.
What are you still doing here? Should you be off getting me a pardon or something? Like a proper big brother?
Dr. Watson. Look after him. Please.
Regardless of what comes before and after, regardless of everything else I've said so far, this is a good moment. I have actually wanted an interaction like this between Watson and Mycroft in any form for ages. I'm kinda sad that when we finally got it, it has to be here. But credit where credit is due, man. He cares. It hurts. And to be clear, the little outburst that Sherlock has in response is also good. Knowing that you've done something self-destructive feels shitty enough on its own. Being called out for doing something self-destructive is 1,000 times worse. It's not something that most people react well to, especially if they still have destabilizing substances in their body like he does at this point. No, that's fine. It's this on top of the intricate, potentially sexual murder fantasy that he just finished having. That's what makes it so cruel. Especially since, at the end of the dream sequence, Sherlock apologizes to Mary for underestimating her, realizes he's been undervaluing John and agrees he's important to him, but Mycroft doesn't get a moment like that. They really backed themselves into a corner in implying that this is really how Sherlock thinks of him. I don't know if I'd say this one element ruins the movie for me. Especially because it clearly has a lot of other problems too, but I think it's the element that solidifies every other issue together and takes it from messy and mediocre to bad and kind of horrifying. Really think about the logic here. If this subplot is the result of the dream world being lawless and chaotic, how can we trust any of the clues being consistent and leading to a consistent conclusion in this mystery? And how can we trust that Sherlock believes his impassioned speech about feminism if all of his morals are genuinely this fucked in his cocaine fantasy? 'Cause I'm pretty sure we're supposed to agree with him on that. I hope we were. But then if the dream really is a reflection of Sherlock's morals, then I think he wants to kill his brother. It just sticks it squarely into a catch-22 where every possible option is bad. That's the tagline for this video, I think. Merry Christmas! Every possible option is bad. I don't know how to transition out of this segment. I guess we could go through the IMDb trivia, those can be fun. Especially because you can see the upvotes and downvotes. Takes place in Victorian London. This is the first time Benedict Cumberbatch played Sherlock in an episode not set in modern day. Instead, it is set in 1895. 2 people did this. Okay, maybe we won't look at those. I guess they did mention the blue carbuncle earlier. I guess I could talk about that for a minute. I try not to compare BBC Sherlock to Granada too much because it's like comparing apples to oranges. I might vastly prefer one over the other, but ultimately they're going for completely different tones. It's not really fair to just pit them against each other, and I try not to. But if you do want a fun Sherlock Holmes mystery for Christmas, their version of the blue carbuncle is a great one. It's a classic jewel heist, there are no murders, it even has a happy ending, but it's got a lot of fun twists and turns, some really great character moments, and just some funny moments overall.
What about this gentleman's fiver?
I know it's been adapted several other times as well, but I haven't seen those, so I can't speak to their quality. I'm sure they're good too, but I have to say, this adaptation in particular makes a change from the original story that I actually do prefer. I won't spoil it, but let's just say we get to see an innocent man be released from prison and spend Christmas with his family. Like I said, it's not the highest stakes Holmes story in the world, but it's great for the holidays. Imagine if Granada had a deeply depressing Christmas special like BBC. Oh god, no!
What's your favorite show here on Public Pearl? Oh, sure, I love that show. Jeremy Brett is one of the best.